this week's topic is building and sustaining a high-performance procurement organisation. Still with me in studio are Tabelo Pecci, independent supply chain consultant, Chris Timmermans, global procurement lead at Accenture, Hayley Walters, senior executive at Accenture South Africa, and Andrew Hillman, director of the Commerce Edge Academy. Tabelo, I was reading through some documents you sent through to me, and change management, you say, plays an important role in bringing a new procurement function into an organisation. Why is that?
Yeah, I think the role of procurement in the past is just be clerical people, administrative people. And procurement has moved to a strategic function where professionals comes into the equation, where you find highly skilled people in an organization. So it is important that while procurement was taking a traditional rule of placing orders that the decision already been made, it must be recognized that now procurement is led by professionals that are able to create value for an organization. They are now run by people who are very much educated, who knows engineers, accountants that are in the procurement function that will be able to come and look at the re-engineering of the organization in such a way that the costs that the company is already exposed to can be calculated and be proven that there's a savings that can be applied in terms of their decision.
Well, Chris, you were chatting about some of the savings that you could have in a high procurement function organisation. And I mean, what sorts of savings would you have in an organisation, or sorry, what sorts of expenses in an organisation that doesn't have a high procurement function?
But you would see that if you're not at a high performance level, you actually have a run rate of savings which is rather low. It's, for example, about equal the cost of running your procurement function, or maybe twice the cost of running it. Those are kind of like the intervals of numbers that you're talking about if you're not high performance. If you are high performance, it's a factor 10. So it's a substantial impact.
Mm-hmm. Hayley, what are some of the barriers perhaps to implementing a new procurement function within an organisation?
I think there are probably two that I would call out. I think first of all is the organisational culture. You know, as I've mentioned earlier, we've come from in South Africa, organisations typically have followed a very federated model. There's a lot of power within the business unit or within the individual divisions within that organisation. And so there's a need to acknowledge the requirement to have an enterprise and organisational wide view from a procurement function perspective. I think that's probably one of the first. The second one is, I think in South Africa, and I think my colleagues have already alluded to the fact that we haven't developed a very strong procurement profession over time. We've drawn on other professions like engineers, like accountants to build out capability and skill in the area of procurement. And even if you look today, there are very few institutions at a tertiary level where professionals will graduate with a procurement degree of a kind. So I think that we have a shortage in terms of the talent pool. We're pulling on the professions that are already short or scarce in capacity, like the accountants and the engineers. And we really need to look in South Africa at creating a much stronger procurement profession and thereby develop our future talent and build out our procurement capabilities as a result.
Chris, I mean, do you think this is peculiar to South Africa? What are you seeing in other regions?
No, I don't necessarily think it's particular to South Africa, because you see also in very established economies where companies have invested for 10 years into procurement, that they still see quite a number of barriers. To Hayley's point, actually, maybe one of the biggest barriers is the fact that everybody thinks they're a good buyer. Each one of us buys at home. We always buy and we think we're doing a good job. So the same thing happens in a company. Everybody feels like, I am a good buyer. And so before you actually demonstrate your added value as a professional buyer in all this aspect, you have to convince all these people that you're a better buyer. And many companies have proven that if you put it in place, you are substantially or buying substantially better. But it does take time because everybody believes they're really good at it.
Mm-hmm. Andrew, how do we get past this mindset?
I think procurement professionals need to qualify themselves with procurement qualifications. There are a number of them around from universities as well as other private institutions. Soft skills are really critical. As procurement professionals move from a purchasing type discipline to more of a strategic type of discipline, they need to have better business acumen. They need to have a good understanding of law, financial acumen, accounting, project management skills. They need to understand their own company's operations, what the strategy is like, and they need to understand what their suppliers' cost structures look like, what the risks are to not only the suppliers, first, second, and third tier suppliers, but how that can be impacted, particularly through something that the economy has just been through in the last several months.
Tabelo, I think you wanted to add something to what Chris was saying.
Yeah, I think change management in procurement is important, because when you're going to change how people are used to do their procurement in a traditional way, you need to come and take them into confidence that whatever we're going to bring here is going to add value to the company. I think one of the key issues that makes procurement not to be effective is territorial issues. If a person is in IT, doesn't want to see a procurement person in that space. And the answer to that is that we need to create a cross-functional team to go and source the products and services that we require as an organization.